Stay there and think about what you've done, you lousy wife.
After those words, I couldn't hear Matt's or his parents' voices anymore. In the pitch-black basement, the only light was from my smartphone. I didn't even know how much longer its battery would last. At that moment, all I felt was despair, unable to move. What should I do? At this rate, even my baby. I couldn't protect my precious baby in my belly, and I couldn't stop crying out of guilt. Then, I heard a notification sound from my phone. Please help me. I answered the call, clutching onto the slightest hope. 1 week later,
Oh, that was fun.
Matt and his parents returned from their trip to Hawaii. They walked into the house with satisfied smiles. As his mother went to put away their luggage,
Oh, what's that smell?
she noticed an unpleasant odor coming from the basement. At first, she didn't know what the smell was.
Could it be the smell of something rotten?
Realizing what it was, she hurried to the basement. Matt and his father, wondering what was going on, followed her. Matt's mother opened the basement door and cautiously peeked inside. My name is Sarah Carter, a 28-year-old working mom. I grew up in a family of 3, my younger brother Nate, who is single, and my mother, who passed away a few years ago. Our father died in a car accident when Nate was little. Our mother was incredibly strong.
I may not have much time for you because of work, but I'll make sure you never suffer.
She said this and worked from early morning till late at night. Sometimes she would juggle multiple jobs, working herself to the bone to raise us. Mom, here's my pay from my part-time job. Please use it for the household. I was always worried she might collapse one day. So, to help out as much as I could, I gave her all my earnings from my part-time job. At first, she would say, "No, it's fine," but reluctantly accepted when I insisted. However, she never used it for the household.
This is your hard-earned money. Use it for yourself.
She saved all of it instead. When I entered college, she gave it all to me. Thanks to her, I had a stress-free college life.
Seeing you two happy is my greatest joy.
She always said that and was always thinking of us. That kind and strong mother of mine passed away from illness just after I started working.
I'll protect you from now on, sis.
Nate declared at our mom's funeral. He grew up strong and kind, much like our mother.
I want to be just like Mom.
He studied hard and achieved his dreams. I'm so proud of him. Nate and another person helped me overcome my grief and look forward again. That other person is my husband, Matt.
Are you okay? You look down. I'm here if you want to talk.
Matt was originally a senior colleague at our company. We were just coworkers. His sudden approach surprised me, but his frequent kind words and willingness to listen gradually drew me to him.
I'll be by your side. I promise to make you happy.
He asked me out, and we started dating. After several years together, we decided to get married.
Congrats, sis. I'm sure Dad and Mom in heaven are blessing you too.
Nate said, celebrating our marriage. Matt's parents also said, "Think of us as your real parents from now on," which made me really happy. Surrounded by kind family, I felt fortunate. I truly believed that until we got married.
If you don't mind, Sarah, how about living with my parents?
Huh?
We're getting married anyway, and it's a waste to keep paying rent.
Nate and I moved out of our family home when we went to college. After Mom passed away, we hesitated a bit, but eventually sold the house. I'm okay with living together.
Thank you, Sarah.
Back then, Matt's parents, Mark and Karen, were very kind to me, so I decided to live with them before the wedding. Mark and Karen welcomed me and always treated me kindly. However, there was one person who was cold towards me.
What? I didn't know we were living together.
That was Matt's sister, Laura. She ignored me when I greeted her and treated me as if I didn't exist.
I'm sorry about my daughter.
She's probably upset she wasn't informed.
Mark and Karen apologized for her behavior many times. In response, I always said, "It's okay," but I felt something was off. Laura's gaze towards me was almost pitiful. Even when I tried to talk to her, she avoided me. And I never got a chance to understand her feelings. Can I really handle this marriage with things like this? I often worried but believed we would eventually understand each other. With such kind people like Matt and his parents, Laura couldn't be a bad person. I thought naively, but I was wrong.
Now she can't escape.
Yeah. It was worth putting up with everything until now.
After the wedding, Matt's parents completely changed. They started ordering me around like a slave, saying, "Cook, clean, pull the weeds in the garden," and more.
A wife's money belongs to her husband's family. Hand over your bank book.
Yeah, we'll make good use of that money.
They tried to take my bank book from me. I immediately talked to Matt about it.
My parents would never do that.
He dismissed me coldly. With my in-laws' attitudes, the thought of divorce crossed my mind. But I had no home to return to, and Nate was busy with work. I didn't want to bother Nate, who was working hard for his dreams. My co-workers would likely trust Matt, who had been with the company longer than I had. I couldn't talk to anyone and was left struggling alone.
Sarah, I did the laundry for you, so please take a break.
Laura reached out to me, exhausted from juggling work and household chores. She secretly helped me whenever Matt's parents weren't around. While I cooked under Karen's watchful eye, she would do other chores. When I reluctantly dealt with Mark, she would subtly intervene to end the conversation.
You're really an incompetent wife.
Good thing you have Matt. No one else would want to take in a lousy wife like you.
When my in-laws mocked me like that,
Don't pay attention to what they say. You're doing great every day, Sarah. You're an amazing person.
Laura always stood up for me and encouraged me. Without Laura, my spirit would have been broken long ago. Grateful for her, I wondered why she was so kind to me. Why do you go to such lengths for me?
What you're going through is what I went through.
After making sure my in-laws were asleep, I approached Laura. What she told me was shocking.
My brother and parents are horrible people. They believe that women should obey their family and think it's okay to treat them like slaves.
Because of this, Laura had suffered a lot over the years. Even though Karen was also a daughter-in-law, she managed to avoid such treatment by skillfully navigating her position and receiving substantial support from her own family.
I wanted to help you escape, but they made sure you could never get away.
My in-laws kept a close watch on Laura to prevent her from telling me anything. Unable to give me advice, she had acted cold as her only form of resistance. I see. I'm sorry for misunderstanding. I always thought you hated me.
Oh no, I'm sorry for not being able to protect you.
Laura said, looking genuinely sorry. She was truly kind-hearted. She shouldn't be in such a place. as I thought about discussing our future plans.
Oh, you're still up.
Matt woke up, and I had to abandon the idea. Seeing Matt tilt his head in confusion at us, I brushed him off and started thinking about the future. What should I do now? I knew I had to find a way to get out of this house. Just then,
Congratulations.
what? Feeling unwell, I went to the doctor and found out I was pregnant. I was very happy about the baby. However, being pregnant meant I would be limited in what I could do. The first person I contacted was Laura.
Pregnancy is something to celebrate, but
I understood what she meant. Maybe I should run away, but Matt had followed me to the hospital, insisting on driving me, and I couldn't just leave Laura behind. As I was pondering what to do,
Is it true that you're pregnant?
I heard Karen's voice on the other end of the phone, and I immediately thought, oh no. Laura must have thought the same.
Mom, were you listening to our conversation?
Laura's panicked voice echoed. Of all people, Karen found out. Karen shares even the smallest things with Mark and Matt, so they would soon know too.
Mom called. Honestly, you should have told me first.
Resigned, I left the hospital to be greeted by Matt's beaming smile. Holding his hand, I returned to his parents' house with mixed feelings.
Congratulations, Sarah.
Well done. We finally have a grandchild.
My in-laws welcomed me with smiles. It was hard to believe these were the same people who had ordered me around and insulted me. I glanced at Laura, who stood behind them. Her eyes said, "You won't escape now." After that, I experienced a brief period of peace.
Take it easy. Don't overdo it.
Matt was kinder than ever and always looked out for me. Knowing how severe my morning sickness was, he arranged for me to start maternity leave early.
I'll handle the laundry.
I'll do the cleaning, Sarah. You should rest.
My in-laws took over the housework and allowed me to rest while suffering from morning sickness. The one who bore the brunt of it was Laura.
You can't even get married, let alone get pregnant. The least you can do is work and contribute to us.
While I lay down, I heard Karen bossing Laura around. Now it was my turn to help her. I tried to get up, but
Please rest, Sarah. Don't worry about me.
Laura refused my help.
More importantly, do you know the gender?
No, it's still too early to tell. She seemed to be thinking about something after my response. When I asked her what was wrong, she said, "I can't be sure, but..."
If the baby is a girl, it could be bad.
She frowned as she said that. I understood what she meant 5 months into my pregnancy.
Do you know the baby's gender?
Yes, it's a girl.
A girl.
Karen suddenly screamed, interrupting me.
This is terrible.
Not only Karen, but also Mark started yelling. Confused, I looked at Matt. He was frowning too. And then I remembered what Laura had told me. Right in this house.
We only accept male grandchildren.
Girls had no value.
How could you be pregnant with a girl, you useless woman?
You've really let us down.
My in-laws insulted me. Matt didn't help. Instead, he glared at me.
You've really disappointed me, Sarah.
His words blamed me. After that, I returned to my life as a slave. Even while pregnant, they ordered me around.
Sarah, I'll do it. Please sit down.
The only difference this time was that Laura actively helped me. but that seemed to irritate my in-laws. "Hey, where's Laura?" One day, after returning from a checkup, Laura was nowhere to be seen. Worried about the only ally I had, I asked about her.
We kicked that useless girl out.
That was the reply I got. Apparently, they took advantage of my absence to throw Laura out with nothing but the clothes on her back. I held back my urge to contact her immediately and waited until my in-laws were asleep to reach out. "Laura, are you okay?"
I'm fine. I managed to grab my phone and wallet before they kicked me out.
She was staying at a nearby internet cafe for now. However, she couldn't stay there forever. "I have a brother. If you mention my name, he'll take you in." I told her to seek help from Nate. I wish I could contact Nate, but his contact information on my phone had disappeared. It seems someone in the family deleted it while I was in the bath. I quickly gave her Nate's workplace and name and hung up before I could be interrupted. Since then, I've been trying to protect my unborn child while surviving in a hostile household. Since that day, I've been constantly monitored and my phone is checked, so I can't contact anyone. I have no idea what's happening with Laura.
Lousy wife. If you don't want your belly kicked, clean the basement.
One day, I was ordered to clean the basement. I didn't want to accept it, but today the whole family was present. If I resisted, they might actually harm my baby. So reluctantly, I headed to the basement.
What are you waiting for? Get moving.
It was dark inside, and I cautiously descended the basement stairs, relying on the light from above. Just as I reached the bottom step, what? The light from above disappeared, and I looked up in a panic. The basement door was tightly shut. "Hey, what are you doing? Open the door."
A perfect place for a worthless wife.
I was trapped in the pitch black space, shouting loudly, but the response was mocking. "This isn't funny, even as a joke."
Shut up. We're going on a week-long trip to Hawaii. Reflect on your disrespect towards us while you're down there.
Yeah, and apologize for getting pregnant with a girl.
I could hear the laughter of my in-laws from the other side of the door. Matt's laugh was mixed in as well.
Stay there and think about what you've done, you lousy wife.
After those words, I couldn't hear Matt's or his parents' voices anymore. In the pitch black basement, the only light was from my smartphone. I didn't even know how much longer its battery would last. At that moment, all I felt was despair, unable to move. What should I do? At this rate, even my baby. My precious child inside me. I couldn't protect her, and I couldn't stop crying from guilt. Then I heard a notification sound from my phone. "Please help me." I answered the call, clinging to a glimmer of hope. All I could think about was my unborn child. For her sake, I had to get out of here. That was all I focused on as I started to move. A week later,
Oh, that was fun.
Matt and his family returned from their trip to Hawaii. They entered the house with satisfied smiles. As Karen went to put away their luggage,
Oh, what's that smell?
she noticed an unpleasant odor coming from the basement. At first, she didn't know what it was.
Could it be the smell of something rotting?
Realizing what the smell was, Karen hurried to the basement. Matt and Mark followed, wondering what was happening. Karen opened the basement door and cautiously looked inside.
What is this?
Karen screamed at the sight of the basement. Hearing her scream, those of us hiding in a nearby room moved. There, we saw Karen sitting down in shock, with Mark and Matt standing stunned.
Sarah, Anne,
Matt's gaze turned towards us, and he shouted upon seeing us. His voice made my in-laws turn towards us as well.
What is going on?
Karen, not noticing the person behind me, yelled. The basement was filled with rotten eggs. The eggs were causing the foul smell.
What have you done?
As Karen moved towards me, Nate and Laura stepped in front of me, blocking her. Finally noticing them, Karen stopped.
It's been a while since the wedding. By the way, don't you notice anything about my sister?
With a cold look, Nate asked, making Matt and his parents look closely at me. They looked shocked.
your belly. Could it be?
Yes, my belly, which had grown due to pregnancy, was now flat. Matt realized what it meant, and I gave him a bright smile. Yes, after you locked me in the basement, my water broke, and I gave birth. A week ago, Laura had contacted me on my phone. Having safely met up with Nate, she now moved to get me out. She found out I was trapped in the basement and rushed to help me. Fortunately, Laura knew where the basement door and key were and, with Nate's help, managed to open it. As soon as I escaped, my water broke. They called an ambulance right away, and I safely delivered my babies at the hospital.
My babies?
I explained, and Matt murmured in confusion. Yes, that's right. I'm having twins, a girl and a boy. My in-laws' eyes widened in surprise. It turned out that one of the twins was a boy, just as they had wanted. When I told them this, they were stunned. Then,
Well done.
Now we have an heir.
what? A few seconds later, my in-laws were overjoyed. I felt nothing but disgust toward them. What are you talking about? They are my precious children. I won't let them be this family's heirs.
What are you saying?
Matt glared at me. I handed him the divorce papers. Matt froze.
Matt, this is perfect. We don't need a lousy wife like her.
That's right. Just take the heir and divorce her.
My in-laws urged Matt, but he didn't respond. He silently stared at the completed divorce papers.
I won't give up custody of either of them. My sister has our best lawyer on her side.
A lawyer?
Yes. I'm a lawyer. I won't show any mercy for my sister or Laura.
Nate glared coldly at them as he said this.
Let's go, Sarah.
Laura, also glaring at my in-laws, urged me to leave.
You'll regret this.
Nate said as we left the house together. After that, I headed to the hospital. I'm sorry for making you wait, my babies. My children were still at the hospital. I had consulted with the hospital, and they kindly agreed to take care of them for me.
All right, let's go.
I then took my children to the law firm where Nate worked.
We've been expecting you. Thank you for coming.
As I entered, Mr. Kevin Brown, who was handling my case, greeted me with a smile. Kevin looked at my children and softened, saying, "They're adorable." Thank you.
They truly are. They look just like you, Sarah.
I thanked him and started discussing what needed to be done next. Of course, the discussion was about the divorce, child support, and alimony. Just then, Matt called me.
Put it on speaker.
Following Kevin's instruction, I answered the call.
I'm really sorry. I don't want to break up with you. Let's start over.
I mentally replied with, "Huh? What on earth is he talking about? I'm not interested in starting over. I don't want to stay with someone who locked his pregnant wife in a basement and went to Hawaii."
I couldn't go against my parents. I had no choice.
No choice? You were laughing along with them, weren't you? The sound of laughter I heard at that time. I still can't forget the shock I felt when I heard it.
What do you mean by it can't be helped? What you did was a clear crime.
At that moment, Nate calmly stated this. They probably didn't expect to hear another man's voice besides Nate's.
Who are you?
Matt's angry voice echoed.
I'm Sarah's attorney. I've also heard from my colleague, Sarah's brother. From now on, I'll be representing her and dealing with you.
After saying that, Nick took a deep breath. Then he directed a sharp gaze at the phone.
Let me speak to you as an individual. What you did was utterly disgraceful. You treated your family like slaves, neglected them, and went on a trip to Hawaii while your pregnant wife was suffering? Have you no shame?
Nick's clear statement made him seem incredibly reliable.
Oh, and from now on, I will also be representing Laura. So refrain from contacting her. We will show no mercy to a despicable family like yours.
Adding to Nick's words, Nate also spoke up. Matt fell silent and the call was ended. Looking at the two lawyers with Laura.
Leave it to us.
We will make sure they pay for their crimes.
They nodded with reassuring smiles. Seeing them, we felt confident in leaving everything in their hands. Thanks to Nick's efforts, I divorced Matt without ever having to see him again. I received custody and child support for the twins, along with a substantial amount of alimony from everyone except Laura.
I'm truly sorry. Please reconsider.
Messages like this from Matt kept coming, but I completely ignored them. Ignoring him was likely the most painful thing for him. He hated being ignored and always tried to draw attention to himself when we were dating.
Please don't ignore me.
His tearful voice was recorded on my voicemail. But I ignored it and ensured I got what I deserved. As a result, Matt's family ended up with a massive debt. Just when I thought it was all finally over, a coworker contacted me.
Sarah, there are some things being said about you at the office.
It seems Matt has been spreading various rumors about me at work. He's been saying I abandoned my duties as a wife and ran away with my kids to be with another man. Hearing the details, I immediately contacted Nick.
This is really bad. Let's prepare to sue for defamation right away.
So I decided to sue him. I also vented to my coworkers about the truth of the situation.
That's unbelievable. He's the one at fault, yet he's using your maternity leave to spread lies.
I wonder why I fell for him.
Maybe he calculated everything and approached you on purpose.
Hearing this, I couldn't help but agree. He probably took advantage of my grief over losing my mother. He might have also exploited the fact that I had no family home to return to.
For now, I'll clear up the misunderstandings at work.
My coworker followed through on that promise. Matt ended up with even more debt due to a defamation lawsuit and eventually quit his job due to the stigma from others. Apparently, my in-laws also felt ashamed. When the ambulance came that day, the neighbors came out to see what was going on.
I told them everything about what we had been through without hiding anything.
As a result, they became the subject of neighborhood gossip. Though my in-laws tried to explain, no one listened. They're supposed to be working to pay the alimony, but they've been hiding at home. That house was kept clean by Laura and me. Now without us, it's in disarray, and the neighborhood kids call it the haunted house. That's what happens when you only think about yourself without considering the consequences. While thinking about this, Nate and Laura came back home. Currently, Laura and I are staying with Nate. I don't have a family home to rely on, but with Nate and Laura actively helping with the twins, I can take care of them more easily and comfortably than when I was with my in-laws.
Sis, here. The office staff sent this for the twins.
Thank you. Please let them know I really appreciate it. The staff at the law firm have experience with children. Their advice has been incredibly helpful.
Sis, we have something important to tell you.
We wanted to inform you first, Sarah.
With serious expressions, they began to speak. I straightened up and listened.
We've decided to date with marriage in mind.
They announced. Apparently, Laura was drawn to Nate's efforts to help, and Nate had fallen for her at first sight. Recently, they confirmed their feelings for each other and started dating with the intention of marriage. Congratulations to both of you. I'm looking forward to having Laura as my sister. I sincerely congratulated them. Nate had never dated anyone before. Laura had been too overwhelmed by her parents to think about dating. I'm truly happy to see them together and happy.
I was always called useless since I was little. I was forced to do all the housework.
Laura began to speak, looking into the distance as if recalling the past.
I wasn't even allowed to leave the house except for shopping.
Despite this, Laura started working from home to escape. When her work started to gain traction, her parents found out. They took all her earnings.
I had given up. I thought I'd never be free, never be happy. Then you came along, Sarah.
What?
I wanted to help you, Sarah, and that was the first time I had the resolve to stand up to my family.
Until then, she had always followed her family's orders. But with my presence, she found the courage to resist and act more assertively. Ultimately, she achieved the freedom she had once given up on.
It's all thanks to you, Sarah. Because you came, I met someone as wonderful as Nate. I can't thank you enough.
Laura smiled through her tears as she said this. Crying, I smiled back and said, "Thank you too." Having brought my in-laws to their downfall, I vowed to attain a happiness they could only envy. Seeing Laura's smile, which my in-laws could never bring out, was the first step. A few days later, I met with Nick at a nearby cafe.
Sorry to call you out. How are the twins?
It's okay. My brother and the office staff are taking care of them. I couldn't help but laugh at him talking to me politely. Really, don't worry about it. I wanted to thank you in the first place. Nick had helped us a lot with my in-laws, and he always looked out for Nate. That's why I reached out to him to express my gratitude.
In that case, would you like to have dinner with me sometime?
He had replied, leading to our meal together. Honestly, I didn't expect you to ask me out.
Sorry to surprise you. The truth is, I've been attracted to you for a while.
Nick's words took me by surprise. I never thought someone as accomplished as him would have feelings for me.
You might not be ready to think about it now, but if you ever feel like dating again, please consider me.
He spoke earnestly. His sincerity made my heart race. After finishing our meal, we left the cafe together.
Sarah.
I turned around when I heard someone call my name. What is that, Matt? Standing there was a haggard-looking Matt. He walked towards me with a happy expression.
Sarah, I've been looking for you. You only have me, right?
Only him. I might have thought that a while ago, but not anymore. Sorry, but I don't need you anymore.
What?
As soon as I declared this, Nick pulled me close.
I will make her happy. There's no place for you anymore.
Nick said, glaring at Matt. Seeing Nick and me standing together, Matt.
But I have no one but you.
He tried to cling to me. I only found him annoying.
We can still make it work, so please.
If you keep bothering her, I'll call the police.
Nick's words stopped Matt in his tracks. Getting the police involved would be a big problem for him, already drowning in debt.
Damn it. Fine.
He muttered and decided to leave. He turned and walked away slowly. His back looked small and lonely.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have touched you so much since we're not even dating yet.
It's okay. Besides, I was really happy to hear you say that. Nick blushed but smiled at my words. Seeing his expression made me realize my future was probably already decided. Later, I heard rumors that my ex-in-law's family had fallen apart. Matt was the first to leave. He apparently loved me deeply and disappeared when he realized he couldn't win me back. With their main breadwinner gone, my ex-in-laws fell further into debt just to survive. They eventually sold their house and are now living under a bridge, barely getting by. Not that I care anymore. I muttered as I headed toward my beloved children. Time flew by, and the twins turned 5. They run around energetically every day, and Nick and I are always busy keeping up with them.
You're finally getting married, Sarah.
Laura smiled at me, holding her peacefully sleeping son. She married Nate 4 years ago and had her son last year. Today is my and Nick's wedding day.
I'll make sure you and the twins are always happy.
Yes, I believe in you. Let's be happy together. With that promise, we headed to the venue, believing that this time we would find true happiness.
You know, Daddy actually.
What? I was stunned by my young daughter Ashley's confession. That man, doing such things behind my back, I'll never forgive him. At that moment, I decided I would do whatever it takes to make my husband, Kevin, deeply regret his actions and drag him through hell. My name is Emily, and I'm 42 years old. I struggle with the summer heat, and every year as the season approaches, my appetite plummets, leaving me feeling drained. I'm not sure if it's my way of coping or if the recent summers have just been abnormally hot, but this year, I'm planning to stock up on ice cream to at least get some sugar into my system. I always tried different strategies to handle the summer, but winter brings its own bitter memories. This happened a few years ago. I was happily living with my husband Kevin and our daughter Ashley.
All right, Ashley, let's go out with Dad.
Okay.
Kevin took Ashley's hand, ready to leave the house. Ashley seemed reluctant. That sounds fun. Where are you going? Take me with you. I asked Kevin excitedly, but his response was cold.
What? You don't need to come.
What?
Housework's tough, right? Just take care of the house.
What's that supposed to mean? You didn't take me last time either. Have you been cold to me lately? Enough already. I knew he wasn't joking by the serious look on his face, but I wanted to believe it was, so I made a joking gesture.
No, it's just me being considerate because you're busy.
However, Kevin just spat out those insincere words and took our daughter Ashley to the parking lot. If it was really about consideration, he would have said something like, "Housework must be tough, let's go out for a break," or "I'll help with the housework." Lately, Kevin has been going out more often, just taking Ashley with him. Where did you go?
It's a secret.
I'm turned down when I try to join them, and even when I ask them after they return, they don't tell me. I wonder if my family dislikes me. Maybe Ashley dislikes me because I'm always strict about what she likes and dislikes. Maybe it's because I'm a stay-at-home mom and hardly ever go out except for local shopping, and I barely even wear makeup these days. Thinking about it, I feel there might be some shortcomings on my part. All right, I'll try to look nice today. After finishing the housework, I put on makeup and prepared a lot of Ashley's favorite foods for dinner, waiting for their return. "How was your day, Kevin, Ashley?" I greeted the two of them with a smile as they returned home.
Hi.
However, Kevin was indifferent and wouldn't even meet my eyes. Ashley seemed tired from playing, her face showing signs of fatigue. "Ashley, did you have fun on your outing?
Yeah,
Didn't you enjoy it?"
Of course she did. Right, Ashley?
I was asking Ashley, but for some reason, Kevin interjected into the conversation.
it was fun.
Ashley responded, prompted by Kevin. But her reply seemed hesitant. Ashley usually shares the day's events with enthusiasm when she truly enjoys herself, so I felt something was off. Meanwhile, Kevin seemed anxious about Ashley's lukewarm response. I couldn't tell if they hadn't enjoyed where they went or if they were hiding something, as neither of them said much. They might have just gone out to play, but since I wasn't included, a strange unease lingered in my mind. That day, the only one who commented on my makeup and outfit was Ashley, who got better.
Mom, you look beautiful today.
At Ashley's words, Kevin glanced over at me,
Well, you really do.
but that was all Kevin said. I wish he would say a little more. I was tempted to get angry, but I stopped myself, thinking maybe my effort was misguided since it seemed he hadn't noticed my appearance at all. I thought they both disliked me. I didn't really know what to do about my own family. After that, Kevin continued to take only Ashley out somewhere every weekend. No matter what I said, he wouldn't take me along. They would come back later each time, eventually not returning until after 10 p.m., setting a new record for their latest return. Kevin carried a sound asleep Ashley on his back. After such excessive behavior continued, I couldn't help but scold Kevin right after he got home. "Hey, where have you been taking Ashley until this late? She has preschool tomorrow. She needs to go to bed early, not be dragged around until nearly midnight." Kevin frowned as if to say my words were just noise. He ignored me as if he couldn't hear me at all, and just went upstairs. "Hey, are you listening? If you care about Ashley enough to take her out every week, you should think about her health too."
Enough already.
Suddenly, Kevin raised his voice as if a dam had broken. Ashley, who had been sound asleep, woke up from Kevin's shouting and started crying. "Hey, Ashley, come here, don't cry." I took Ashley from Kevin's back and held her. "Come on, don't shout when Ashley is here."
What's your problem? You start fussing the minute I get home. Are you in a bad mood because you're not taken out too?
That's not it. I'm just saying if you're going to take Ashley out, consider the time.
You sure? You're just jealous because Ashley always gets to go.
Why would you think that? It's normal for a parent not to want their child out late at night.
Just prepare the bath and bring the clothes.
What an attitude. Forget it. Get your own clothes.
What? You always bring them for me.
Well, I'm upset with your attitude, so you deserve it. I won't do anything.
Gosh, what an old witch. I really messed up choosing a wife.
Kevin gave me a look that was anything but loving and walked away. He slammed the door with a loud bang and stomped off towards the bathroom. I couldn't help feeling frightened. What's with him? I don't think I said anything wrong. Rather, Kevin lacks too much awareness as a father. He used to be more family-oriented, and he wasn't someone who would frighten everyone with his anger. Why has he become like this? It's been almost 6 years since we married, and it might be time to reevaluate our relationship. Since that day, Kevin's careless treatment towards me has become more apparent.
Can you handle this for me?
What? One Sunday, Kevin handed me a note. It was written in Kevin's handwriting, listing items like ice cream and snacks. What's this? You want me to buy them?
You're free anyway. Please do it.
No way. You're just sitting at home doing nothing too. Go buy it yourself.
What? Don't talk back to me like that. I'm the breadwinner here. Who do you think pays for this comfortable life?
Who do you think makes it possible for you to live without doing any housework? You earn the money, I manage the home. It's just a division of roles. We should be equals.
Not cute. Ashley, tell Mom. Say mean old witch.
Mean old witch?
Ashley repeated the words Kevin told her, looking puzzled. However, Kevin seemed pleased that Ashley had said it.
Say it more.
Kevin was laughing and egging her on. Why do I have to be called a mean old witch just for speaking the truth? Ashley, noticing my irritation, looked at me with an embarrassed face, so I forced a smile just for her. Anyway, do your own shopping.
Stingy wife.
Even Ashley, who's just a preschooler, takes care of her own needs. I wanted to argue back, but I stayed silent to avoid a big fight. Lately, my arguments with Kevin have been increasing. Thinking about the bad influence it might have on Ashley, I've been trying to keep my emotions in check and avoid clashes with Kevin. Is there any way to rebuild a good relationship with Kevin again? At this rate, the word divorce seems to be looming in my mind. Ashley is attached to Kevin, and I want to avoid that option as much as possible. As a parent and as a wife, I've been racking my brain for something I could do. But Kevin probably isn't considering my feelings at all. While he has decreased the times he takes Ashley out, his late-night outings have increased. He leaves the house after dinner for walks and doesn't return for hours, or he's gone all day on weekends. Since our arguments have increased, maybe he doesn't want to be around me. I want to get along, but it feels like I'm just spinning my wheels. Ashley's expression also seems somewhat gloomier. Pondering what to do, I made a suggestion to Kevin. Ashley's birthday is coming up. Why don't we go to the aquarium and then eat out to celebrate her birthday? How about it? Ashley was thrilled with my suggestion. Though Kevin seemed reluctant, he agreed, perhaps because he couldn't say no given Ashley's reaction. Spending time together as a family should change this tense atmosphere. I thought that by enjoying ourselves outside rather than at home, our conversations would increase. But on Ashley's birthday, Kevin said,
I got a call from work and have to go in.
What? You have to work today?
Sorry, but I have to go to the office. See ya.
Wait just a minute. Hey. Kevin left in a hurry without really apologizing.
Mommy, what about the aquarium?
Ashley was tearful. Caught off guard by the sudden change, I wasn't sure what to do, but tried to soothe Ashley ambiguously. I'm sorry, okay? In the end, Ashley and I went to the aquarium by ourselves, and we canceled eating out just in case Kevin might come back. However, Kevin didn't contact us even late at night and unexpectedly came home in the morning. How can you cancel our family plans and not even contact us, then come home in the morning? I couldn't help but yell at Kevin as soon as he returned, having stayed up waiting. But Kevin didn't look the least bit sorry.
It was work, so there's nothing I can do about it.
Kevin was defiant. I'm not angry that you had to cancel because of work. I'm angry because you show no remorse. Yesterday, I took Ashley to the aquarium because she was looking forward to it, and she was sad the whole time because you weren't there. And we even canceled our dinner out because Ashley wanted to eat with you. We waited just the two of us. When you cancel plans like that, don't you even think that maybe your family is waiting at home? You don't even say sorry. My frustration with Kevin poured out uncontrollably. Though I knew I shouldn't say it, I couldn't stop myself.
It was your choice to wait up. If you're going to complain, you should have just gone to sleep instead of staying up. Don't use Ashley as an excuse for your bad mood. You're just snapping at me for no reason.
Why are you turning it into that kind of discussion? Don't you care at all that you missed Ashley's birthday?
I've told you several times. It was because of work. Are you telling me to quit my job?
Not that.
Enough. I'm tired. I'm going to take a bath and sleep.
And then, like during a previous argument, Kevin turned away and went to the bathroom. I've told myself countless times that it couldn't be true, but perhaps it really is impossible to continue as a couple. If I stay married just for Ashley's sake and keep up this facade of a marriage, she might sense something is wrong eventually and get hurt anyway. If we continue to be tense like this, it's only a matter of time before Ashley notices. Children aren't that naive. But right now, Ashley loves both Kevin and me. If we divorced and she had to choose just one of us, it would surely be tough for her. I couldn't decide whether to divorce or not, and my heart was wavering. Then one day, it happened.
Ashley, I'm sorry we couldn't go to the aquarium for your birthday the other day. How about we take a bath together with Daddy today?
Bath. I'll play with my dolls.
Ashley was delighted to be invited to the bath by Kevin. It had been years since Kevin bathed with Ashley. But it seemed Kevin felt bad about the other day. I thought it was okay if he didn't apologize to me, as long as he felt sorry towards Ashley, so I felt a bit relieved when Kevin apologized to her.
Mommy, Daddy said he'll play with me in the bath.
Yes, that's great, Ashley. Ashley, happily clutching her bath toys, skipped towards the bathroom. She's so adorable. I felt a warm, cozy feeling inside. Have fun.
Yeah.
Kevin is still curt with me, but that's okay for now. As long as Ashley looks happy, that's enough for me. About 20 minutes after Kevin and Ashley went to the bath,
Emily, help.
I heard Kevin's weakening loud voice, and, fearing something had happened to Ashley, I rushed to the bathroom, and there, I found Kevin, half out of the bathroom, collapsed into the changing area, as if he had crawled out. Kevin, what happened? He didn't respond, so he seemed unconscious, though he was breathing. His arms and legs were red, possibly from overheating. Glancing around, I noticed Ashley was missing. Her clothes weren't in the changing area. What's going on? She should have been in the bath. As much as I felt bad for Kevin, finding Ashley was my priority, so I frantically searched the house. Then, going outside and around to the back of the bath, I heard a faint voice coming from the storage shed.
Mommy, Mommy.
It was Ashley's voice. I immediately opened the door to the shed. There was Ashley, sitting alone among some cleaning tools and trash meant to be thrown out. Why is she here? Hide and seek? No, that can't be it. It might seem unusual, but our house has a back door in the bathroom. It was because we used to have a large dog. It was convenient for washing its paws after walks, so we designed it that way. Thus, it was entirely possible for Ashley to have come to this shed from the bathroom on her own. However, Ashley had been looking forward to bathing with Kevin, so it seemed unlikely she would suddenly hide in the shed on her own. I suspected Kevin. Why are you here? Did Daddy tell you to stay here? I instinctively hugged Ashley. Poor thing, she was so cold from being in the freezing shed.
Yes. Daddy told me, before we got in the bath, to wait here and not come out until he called me.
Why would he do that?
You know, I've been keeping a secret.
What? What Ashley told me was horrifying. I felt ashamed for being oblivious all this time. And even more, I felt hatred toward Kevin. I'll never forgive him. I'll make him regret this from the bottom of my heart. This is when I decided to take everything away from Kevin.
What? Oh, what? It's cold. What's this? Hey, is that you, Emily?
Kevin's voice conveyed his confusion clearly. Yes, you're awake now.
You're saying you're awake now. Did you leave me undressed in the bathroom? Cold-hearted wife.
Then Kevin opened the door and came back into the changing area. Immediately, Kevin's face tensed up.
What? Dad? Mom?
Sitting with me in the changing area waiting for Kevin were his parents, Susan and Mark. They were glaring at Kevin sternly.
Why are you two here? Hey, don't look. I'm not wearing any clothes. Give me a towel.
Kevin frantically grabbed a bath towel to cover himself. Oh, you should be hiding much more than just that, shouldn't you?
What are you trying to say?
Kevin responded to my question with an annoyed attitude. He could only act this way for so long. This person you should have kept hidden, shouldn't you? I dragged a woman from the hallway into the changing area, whom I had asked to wait.
No way, stop it.
Seeing her, Kevin's expression froze again.
What? Why is she?
So, you were having a date with this Riley in our bath, pushing Ashley into the shed?
How did you know?
Kevin immediately covered his mouth, his expression revealing his guilt. Delighted by Kevin's slip, I couldn't help but smirk. I heard everything from Ashley and Riley. No matter how much you try to hide it, it's futile. Just give up. Kevin clutched his head at my words. It seems he realized he could no longer keep it a secret. What I heard from Ashley was a shocking story indeed. Kevin had apparently been repeatedly cheating with this woman, Riley. He'd even taken Ashley along with him. Yes, the outings he claimed to be taking Ashley on were actually visits to Riley's house. No wonder I was never invited.
Don't tell Mommy where we went or who we met, okay? Because Ashley, you would get in trouble, right?
That's what Kevin had been telling Ashley, coaxing her into silence. So Ashley, not really wanting to go to Riley's house, had no choice but to keep quiet about it.
Using Ashley as an alibi for your affairs is despicable. I've lost all respect for you, you disgrace.
Susan slapped Kevin hard across the face. Then she started hitting him with a bottle of laundry detergent, and no one tried to stop her. Only Riley hesitantly tried to intervene.
That's enough.
Everyone felt it was justified to scold Kevin.
Why would you bring my parents into this over my affair? That's low, Emily.
I don't want to hear it from a man who cheats. I just wanted Susan and Mark, who adore Ashley, to know how far your misconduct has gone. What's wrong with that?
That's right. Don't you dare talk back.
Mark agreed with me and yelled at Kevin. Their hatred for Kevin might be stronger than mine, given their deep love for their granddaughter, Ashley. Mark, who was quite the troublemaker in his youth, had a fierce look that made Kevin tremble.
Seriously, Riley, why did you get caught? I made sure you got away.
I had found out from Riley herself that Kevin had invited her here. The reason Kevin did such a foolish thing as inviting his affair partner, Riley, to our house goes back to Ashley's birthday. That day, Kevin had apparently planned to meet Riley. He intended to take Ashley along as usual. However, my suggestion for Ashley's birthday party changed his plans.
Sorry, but I need to cancel this time.
Which is more important to you, your family or me?
Riley was angry at Kevin for this. From there, their relationship became a bit strained, and things were awkward between them. Recently, Kevin had apologized.
I'm sorry. I'll take care of you.
And as proof that he valued Riley more than his family, he invited her to our house.
If Emily finds out about you, I'll choose you next time.
Kevin had even gone so far as to say such a cheesy line. He talks about inviting her over, but it was just for a brief encounter in the bath, hardly an invitation. Moreover, to ensure he wouldn't be suspected for taking too long in the bath, he brought Ashley, who loves playing in the bath. It's showing his cowardly nature. But Riley was apparently happy nonetheless. Love is blind, as they say. Thus, they ended up having a secret meeting in our house. However, Kevin got too excited about meeting his mistress, Riley, in the unusual setting of our home bath, which caused his blood pressure to rise. He then overheated and lost consciousness. Just before losing consciousness, he managed to help Riley escape through the back door, but in her haste, she forgot to take her clothes and left with just a towel. Kevin meant to retrieve her things for her, but the back door was locked after he passed out. With nowhere else to go, she ended up hiding behind our shed, where I easily found her.
This wasn't supposed to happen. I'm sorry.
Riley said with tears in her eyes. Kevin groaned and sighed in annoyance.
This is the worst.
What a despicable thing to say at a time like this. I couldn't help but scold Kevin for his attitude. Regardless of her being your mistress, isn't that a terrible way to treat Riley, who is in tears?
Whose side are you on?
I'm certain I'm not on yours. Kevin clicked his tongue. Susan and Mark also frowned in displeasure at Kevin's attitude. Noticing their reaction, Kevin awkwardly averted his eyes and said,
She's just making things up. I didn't cheat.
What?
Riley looked at Kevin with a puzzled expression. Suddenly, an unexpected betrayal occurred.
That's right. She broke into the back door on her own and kidnapped Ashley from the bath.
No way, that's far-fetched. Everyone there must have thought so. However, Kevin seemed desperate to get away with his poor excuse.
She's a trespasser.
Kevin was blaming Riley.
Unbelievable. You were the one who invited me. I still have your messages on my phone.
Riley's words made Kevin falter. That's right, I've taken Riley's phone, so I've seen all your exchanges after that.
Look for yourself.
Riley took on a smug attitude.
Don't think you can save yourself and leave me to take the fall. If I'm going to hell, you're going too.
Then Riley slapped Kevin.
What are you doing?
Despite his words, Kevin was speechless, biting his lip in silence.
Emily, I'm sorry for getting involved with Kevin. Please forgive me.
It seemed Riley had decided to betray Kevin. She was clearly trying to curry favor with me.
That's not fair.
Kevin was whining like a child behind her. Don't worry, Riley. There's no way only one of you will get away. I'll make sure I send you both to hell together.
What?
They should be here any minute now.
What are you talking about?
No, I mean a different matter.
I don't understand.
A little after this exchange, our doorbell rang. Excuse me, Mark. Could you please go greet the person who just arrived and bring them here?
Understood.
Looking puzzled by my request, Mark headed to the front door. Then, a person arrived in the changing area guided by Mark.
What?
Riley's face tensed up. Understandably. She must have been shocked. I couldn't help but smirk. This is Riley's father. I found his contact in Riley's phone and emailed him to explain the situation and invited him here. As I introduced him with a smile, Kevin exclaimed,
No.
What?
Why are you here? Daniel, the division manager.
Kevin got shocked and Riley turned pale. Wait, the division manager. What's going on?
Emily, why did you bring the division manager from our company here? I think calling her parents is one thing, but you've got the wrong person. You're making things complicated.
Oh my God, thinking it was a mistake, I checked the outgoing messages on Riley's phone. But indeed, I had messaged the person saved as Dad. There was no mistake. So this person must be Riley's father. Meanwhile, Daniel stood there pale, stunned.
No way. Riley.
Daniel groaned. Riley broke down crying.
I'm sorry. Forgive me.
Kevin was dumbfounded.
Aren't I your boyfriend? What do you mean, father?
That's well.
Riley looked around helplessly, and Daniel desperately tried to get to the truth. I called him because he was saved in your phone as Dad, thinking he was your father. Is that not correct? Daniel was taken aback by my question.
Dad?
Riley looks down, likely unable to face anyone.
So, you saw me as a father, not a lover. Was I just a wallet to you?
No, that's not it. I really loved you.
Then why did you save me as Dad in your phone? I thought it was strange. You always wanted things when we met, and the marriage talks were going nowhere.
Listen, it's not like that.
I don't care anymore. I thought we were seriously together.
Initially, it was all very confusing, but it appears Riley and Kevin had started an affair while working at the same company. At the same time, Riley was dating Daniel. While it sounds nice to call it dating, she was essentially receiving financial support from him. Daniel, thinking it was a serious relationship, had even considered marriage, but Riley was not enthusiastic, and the conversation was always evasive. Yet, she had demanded an engagement ring, and in retrospect, there were many odd things about it. It seemed she wasn't having that kind of relationship with Kevin, so perhaps Kevin was her real love interest. Daniel was just a dad. He realized he had been deceived by Riley. I had assumed he was a single father because only dad was saved in the contacts, with no mom, but now I understood what that meant.
Was it fun making a fool out of me, both of you?
Daniel, I didn't know you and Riley were dating.
It doesn't matter. You've embarrassed me. You both better be prepared.
Daniel shook off Kevin's attempt to stop him and stormed out of our house. Riley and Kevin both collapsed to their knees.
It's over.
Oh dear, looks like you might lose your jobs and everything else, Kevin.
Whose fault is that? Wait, what do you mean everything else?
You're about to lose your family too.
What?
I quietly handed Kevin the divorce papers that Susan had fetched for me. Please sign this. Let's get divorced. I'll take custody of Ashley.
Why? How can you make such a unilateral decision?
Why? How can you even ask that? Don't you realize what you've done to Ashley? You could have given her a trauma for life. There's no way she can live with a man who does that. Are you stupid?
One affair should be forgivable as a show of masculinity.
What? Just as I was about to snap at Kevin's words, it happened. With a loud bang, Kevin fell backwards. He had been kicked by Mark.
Still not cool-headed, despite being undressed, right? What a worthless son.
Mark's face was red with anger. Although he was smiling, the aura emanating from his back was filled with murderous intent.
Dad,
Save your excuses.
Mark grabbed Kevin's hair and slapped him across the face. It might seem excessive, but under the circumstances, it was probably justified. Nobody seemed to sympathize with Kevin. They probably thought he was too despicable to deserve sympathy. Thus, under Mark's forceful approach, Kevin agreed to the divorce. He promised to pay alimony and child support, and he agreed to transfer all his assets to me without dividing any property. It feels slightly wrong to have taken everything from Kevin with just Mark's fists, without any legal proceedings. But considering what Kevin did to Ashley, it seems fair. May he deeply regret everything from the bottom of his heart. Afterward, Riley agreed to pay me a settlement, and she also ended up paying one to Daniel. Normally, it's difficult to claim damages for romantic fraud, but Riley had been careless, and various pieces of evidence of fraud came to light. A little investigation revealed her secret social media account detailing her sugar daddy activities, and it all came out. This scandal was also the reason she was fired from her company. Of course, Kevin's misdeeds were exposed too, and both of them ended up having to leave the company. Kevin's job was in a field where connections are crucial. Incidents at one company often spread as rumors to other companies. As expected, Kevin's scandal spread beyond his company, complicating his job search. Kevin managed to switch industries for his job, but it seemed the fit was off, and he didn't last long, changing jobs 4 times in his 30s. His resume began to look like that of someone who couldn't hold down a job, and eventually, he couldn't get past any interviews. However, when one door closes, another opens. He found one place willing to hire him, despite his job-hopping history. It was a small food processing factory, but it must have been a blessing for Kevin. But this company was infamous in the industry for having many employees break down and quit due to its exploitative practices. It was a curse disguised as a blessing. Serves him right. As for me, I turned our old home into a rental property and started living in an apartment close to the station with Ashley. Living in the house where all that happened didn't seem mentally healthy, especially after the divorce. Actually, I did ask Ashley before the divorce. Is it okay if we say goodbye to Dad? I decided to divorce on my own initiative, so I was worried Ashley might still want her father around, but Ashley's response was unexpected.
Yeah.
Being taken to Riley's house where she didn't want to go, being neglected, having promises broken, and not being played with in the bath. All these betrayals by Kevin seemed to have long driven Ashley's heart away from him.
It was such a hassle having to pretend to enjoy those outings.
Ashley's mature comment made me laugh. Needless to say, it made me feel completely justified in getting the divorce. Right after the divorce, Kevin seemed uninterested in Ashley and never asked to see her. But as he grew older and remained alone, perhaps loneliness set in. Around the time Ashley started elementary school, he began reaching out.
I want to meet as a family.
No, we're not a family.
However, Ashley scoffed at this and showed no interest in going. It's not that I refuse to let Ashley meet with Kevin, but Ashley herself has been finding ways to cancel their meetings at the last minute. Just the other day, she feigned illness at the last moment to avoid seeing him.
It's my own doing, isn't it?
Kevin seemed to realize her lies as he dejectedly acknowledged his part in this, yet he still holds out hope for a meeting. But it seems that hope might soon be crushed by Ashley herself.
I never plan to see him again.
For Kevin, facing a future with Ashley seems bleak. Meanwhile, Ashley and I have developed a bond like that of mother and daughter, or perhaps like friends. We go shopping for clothes together on weekends, where Ashley helps pick out my outfits, and I enjoy selecting her clothes and accessories. These joys are unique to having a same-sex parent. Ashley has recently developed a crush on a boy and wants to perfect her dessert-making skills, so I am teaching her how to make exceptionally delicious treats. Following my divorce, I utilized my experience as a patisserie before I was married and opened a cake shop. Despite struggles with price hikes and a new, cheaper chain store in the neighborhood, every time I see families come to celebrate special occasions with our cakes, I feel it's all worth it. Being part of someone's cherished memories is a joy. Although the chain store is a threat, our local customers prefer the warm flavors of our shop to the well-known store. Let's keep making warm-hearted sweets.
I'll take over Mom's shop one day.
Ashley says things like that. I'm not expecting it, but if that day really comes, I'd be so happy.
Right. You're a single mom, aren't you? Probably not much money to your name. You can wait until the end. Just sit tight. Even if we calculate your waiting time in hourly wages, it's cheap, right? Yay, yeah, move back, move back.
When I went to the bank with my son, Nathan, to withdraw some money, the bank clerk, realizing I was a single mother, looked down on us. We were made to wait for hours. My anger was reaching its peak when Nathan whispered,
If we withdraw the $60 million we have deposited, we could shut this place down, couldn't we?
We, mother and son, smiled slyly at each other. My name is Emily Johnson. I live with my husband, Daniel, and our young son, Nathan, who just started kindergarten. Daniel and I met at a mixer during our college years. At the time, I was busy studying to enter law school. Daniel, who was attending medical school at Harvard University, was also busy with his clinical rotations. We both thought the mixer might be a nice break from studying, but fate is a strange thing that casual thought ended up shaping our entire lives. We hit it off and exchanged contact details that same day, and by the next week, we were studying together in the library. My university was a public one, so the tuition was relatively affordable, but I needed to save up to take the bar exam for my law school. Daniel, busy with his medical school, couldn't work much either, and money was tight. Our dates were mostly studying together in the library or at each other's homes, and occasionally grabbing lunch, but still, the days I spent with Daniel were incredibly happy. 4 years passed since we met, and I was in my final year of law school when I passed the bar exam. Daniel also passed his medical licensing exam, and as soon as our training periods were over, we got married. For a while, we were busy working as a fledgling lawyer and doctor. Our jobs were demanding, and our home was often in disarray, with no time to attend to it. I wanted to cook nutritious meals for Daniel, but I was too occupied with my own job. There were many times when our trash bags were filled with frozen food packages and takeout containers. Daniel never complained about the neglected housework, but he too was in no position to contribute. Though I rarely had to pull all-nighters, Daniel often worked until late at night due to his job as a doctor. It felt like we had been running together ever since our intense student days. 10 years into our marriage, we were blessed with a child. My law firm said, "Please don't quit. We'll cover your bar registration fees while you're on leave, and we hope you'll return once you're done with child rearing." But Daniel, still in the midst of his demanding career, wished for me to take a break, so I decided to put a pause on my career as a lawyer. I waited until my current cases wrapped up before resigning from the law firm. Suddenly, time seemed to slow down. I could finally focus on our home, the baby on the way, and Daniel. It was a stark contrast to our previously hectic life. We named our child Nathan. He grew up smart, able to read and write alphabets by the age of 2. By the time he entered the kindergarten, he could read an analog clock and would start reading the news on the computer with Daniel, then explain it to me on our walks to and from the kindergarten. I was amazed by his rapid growth, but Daniel just laughed it off as normal. According to Daniel's mother, he was similar as a child. But perhaps the peak of my life was those peaceful years I spent as a housewife, raising young Nathan alongside Daniel. When Nathan was 5, we went skiing in the winter. It was a sunny morning, perfect for skiing, but by evening, when we were about to head home, the weather turned. As we hurried back, Daniel said, "I see something like a hat in an off-course snowdrift. Someone might have fallen. I'll go check." I had a bad feeling, but I knew I couldn't stop him. Daniel, who worked in and prioritized saving lives, couldn't just ignore someone who might be in danger. If only I had forcefully stopped Daniel at that moment. No matter how much I regret it, it doesn't change what happened. As Daniel approached the snowdrift, A fierce blizzard hit, blinding us. I could barely protect my young son, Nathan, holding him tightly. When the visibility cleared, Daniel was nowhere to be seen. The rescue team arrived quickly, but Daniel had already passed away, suffocated and frozen by the snow. I couldn't even cry. Under the frighteningly cleared blue winter sky, I stood frozen, holding Nathan. Daniel, who had been laughing and skiing with us just moments ago, was gone. Memories of our time together since we met flashed through my mind. Daniel was always serious, smart, and straightforward. In front of me, Nathan was stunned but didn't cry.
Dad was trying to help the person who lost his hat, right?
Realizing everything, the 5-year-old Nathan understood it all. Yes, he was trying to help, was all I could say. Nathan hugged me tightly.
Don't worry, Mom. I'll protect you. I'll take care of you.
From then on, there was a gaping hole in my heart. True to his word, Nathan, with his small body, tried his best to help and protect me. But it was me who needed to truly protect him. Now, without Daniel, it was my responsibility to take care of Nathan. The unknown future filled me with fear. Daniel, as a doctor, had left us with some inheritance. But Nathan was only 5. I didn't know how much money would be needed in the future. Considering his intelligence, he might want to become a doctor like Daniel. Medical school tuition is expensive, and the inheritance wouldn't cover it. It would be great if I could return to work as a lawyer, but working full-time while raising young Nathan was daunting. I wanted to at least work part-time to earn some living expenses, but my health, deteriorating since Daniel's death, made even that difficult. I felt anxious as our savings steadily decreased.
Don't worry, Mom. I'll protect you. I'll grow up fast.
Nathan's comforting words and hugs were my only solace. Nathan would quickly finish the books I gave him, so buying new ones all the time was costly. We frequented the local library, where he read voraciously. By the time he graduated from kindergarten, he could write nearly all the high school level English. With his expanding ability to read more, the range of books he could read grew rapidly. Nathan, reading everything from any genre, soon knew more trivia than I ever did. Alone, without anyone to rely on, and having lost my beloved husband, Nathan's growth was the only light in my life. A few years later, Nathan turned 9. His passion for reading hadn't changed, but a significant change came into my life. When Nathan entered 4th grade, I returned to work as a lawyer. I always loved the legal profession, and I had the experience of working tirelessly through my 20s. A month into my return, I regained my professional intuition and could handle the workload. By then, my health, which had been fragile since losing Daniel, had finally stabilized, and the nightmares that used to wake me up at night had decreased. Still, balancing work as a lawyer and household chores was tough. Preparing meals for Nathan and doing laundry were all I could manage. There was no time for myself. I could only hurriedly apply my makeup foundation in the office restroom in the morning. Often, I went to bed without removing my makeup, and my wardrobe, limited to the suits I wore for work, was outdated. I declined a college reunion invitation, embarrassed by my current state, and returned home feeling somewhat gloomy. When I opened the door, there was Nathan, sitting in front of a brand new computer with a sparkle in his eyes. "Nathan, What's with the computer?
I got it as a prize. Remember the TV quiz show I participated in? I wanted to keep it a secret until it aired, but I won, Mom. And this computer was the prize. Cool, right?
You won? Why didn't you tell me earlier? That's amazing, Nathan. You're just like your dad. I hugged him tightly. With this computer, Nathan's life began to move forward rapidly. A year had passed since he won the computer in the quiz show. He spent most of his time at home on the computer. At first, I helped Nathan with the computer, but that only lasted a day or two. Soon, he was buying specialized books from the bookstore and quickly absorbing the knowledge. He was always quick at reading, and after I started working full-time again, I could buy him lots of books. Nathan's study desk quickly filled up with books on programming languages. I've only ever really dealt with law, so I know nothing about computer languages like Java or C++. Nathan, my own child, seemed almost dazzling to me, almost as if he wasn't my own. Daniel, it seems he's taken after you, excelling in the sciences. I caught myself speaking to the night sky. Nathan sometimes read my old college books too. Thinking about what path he might choose in the future, I no longer felt the same fear I did right after losing Daniel. Nathan would carve out his own strong path in life and society. I'm confident about that. We always visit Daniel's grave on his anniversary, and this year was no different. As we were walking to the bank to withdraw some money before buying a new computer for Nathan, a man suddenly bumped into me from behind, causing me to almost lose my balance. The man, wearing a shiny long coat and a flashy, tasteless watch, snarled, "Move it, you're in the way," before tossing the rude remark over his shoulder. What the? I wanted to retort, but remembering it was Daniel's anniversary, I held back, avoiding any trouble or harsh words.
Mom, are you hurt?
Nathan asked, and I hugged him tightly. Thanks, I'm fine. Are you okay? That must have startled you.
Yeah, maybe that man was in a hurry, but it's unforgivable that he bumped into you.
Haha, you're so kind, Nathan. But don't worry, I'm fine.
Welcome. How can I assist you today?
Arriving at the bank, we were greeted with a smile so warm it blew away the unpleasantness from before. The receptionist, Smith as her nameplate indicated, quickly prepared our documents and gave us a number.
It's quite busy today, so it might take some time. Please have a seat on the sofa over there.
We sat down on the sofa.
Mom, isn't that person?
Nathan suddenly exclaimed in surprise. I gasped as well. The man who had bumped into me was now sitting at the counter.
Yes, hand me those papers.
The bank clerk, seeming not to regard us as customers, took the papers with an indifferent attitude.
I'll proceed with your transaction. Just wait over there.
After scribbling on the papers, he returned them dismissively. What's with him? I thought, holding back my urge to complain. It's Dad's anniversary. We shouldn't complain, right? I smiled at Nathan.
What? You guys are really a single mother and son? Huh? A pair of poor people. Poor people can wait and wait.
I was shocked to hear such unbelievable words coming from the bank employee. Nathan stood agape. Don't worry about it, Nathan. Let's read a book instead. I tapped his shoulder and pulled out the book I brought. Nathan, clearly angry, nodded and began reading his specialized book. However, our number never got called. At first, I thought it was just because it was busy. But as we waited and grew bored, I noticed that customers who arrived after us were being called and served. I thought it might be a misunderstanding, but it wasn't. The elderly man who came in just after us and sat on the neighboring sofa finished his transaction and left. Even a businessman who seemed to have arrived after we started reading also completed his business and left.
Mom, let's be good today. Dad would wait quietly.
Nathan said, stopping me as I was about to stand up and complain. You're right, I said with a wry smile and opened the book again. As a mother, I was constantly being reminded by Nathan. After nearly 3 hours of waiting, even Nathan seemed to be getting irritated. Nathan, I'll go ask. Don't worry, I'll be polite. I won't do anything Dad wouldn't like. I reassured him, and he nodded after a moment's thought. Excuse me, we're number 57. We've been waiting for nearly 3 hours. I approached the counter, holding back my irritation and asking as politely as I could.
What? 3 hours? That's fine. It's busy here. Poor people like you are always last.
Poor people like us?
Yes, you're a single mother, right? Probably don't have much money anyway. You can wait till the end. Even if we calculate your waiting time in hourly wages, it's cheap, right? Yay, yeah, move back, move back.
Wait, you changed the order of customers based on that. Then, just as I was about to forget my promise to Nathan and retort, I felt a tap on my back. Turning around, Nathan stood there with a beaming smile.
Mom, if we withdraw the $60 million we have in this bank, what happens to the bank?
What nonsense are you talking about, kid? You guys don't have that kind of money. Maybe $600,000? No, probably not even that.
I couldn't stand it when he insulted Nathan too, and just as I was about to speak up, the branch manager burst out of the back room at great speed. Smith must have informed him, as I could see her following him.
Miller, what are you saying?
Branch manager.
Miller, the bank clerk, looked shocked as he saw the manager's face.
Miller, how dare you speak to our customers like that?
But, branch manager, this is
our esteemed customer, Johnson, and her son.
Miller looked as if he had been hit by a bolt from the blue.
This person is Emily Johnson. I had no idea.
Mrs. Johnson, we are terribly sorry for the rude behavior of our staff, Miller, and for making you wait for so long. Please, come this way.
We were then escorted to the back room.
We deeply apologize for the inconvenience.
Once inside, Smith brought us warm tea and small sweets, and another staff member quickly proceeded with our transaction. In fact, this branch had $60 million in my name. Of course, it wasn't the money I earned just as a lawyer. Nathan, who had become completely engrossed in computer programming and app development, created a game with his friends that became a huge hit. I set up a company in my name and put the money there. His friends who developed the app with him were all graduate students or freelance engineers, but Nathan, still a primary school student, was in charge of the main part of the development. The game app wasn't just a one-time release. It required maintenance and frequent updates, and Nathan was mainly responsible for those as well. When simple legal knowledge was needed during development, he read my law books and handled it himself. Nathan, even as a primary school student, had completely relieved me of financial worries and even gave me dreams. He was mostly managing the deposit. However, deposit management was all done online, so there was little need to visit the bank in person. Usually, when I come to the bank, it's during a break from work, and I would be wearing a formal suit. Today, however, we were in our casual clothes, which might be why Miller didn't recognize me. Or perhaps he was new to the branch and hasn't seen me before. Either way, it's outrageous and extremely rude to discriminate and treat customers differently based on their appearance. We asked the branch manager to properly retrain Miller for the sake of other customers and left the bank. At the grave visit, I talked to Daniel about how Nathan was today. Unlike me, who almost wanted to complain, Nathan remained calm throughout, and he gently supported me. We talk about his game app every time we visit, but I mentioned it again. Dad, Nathan's game has been out for half a year, but the number of subscribers is still growing. And every time we release new skins or items, the sales go through the roof. Nathan writes most of the main coding.
But I can't draw, so all the artwork is done by Andrew.
Nathan said happily. Nathan, who loves computers and books too much, doesn't seem to have many close friends at school. So, working together with older peers to create something must be even more enjoyable for him. He said he can talk about complex topics with his development team, which he can't do with his school friends. He seems to be studying new programming languages too. I reported with a smile. Dad, I'll protect Mom for sure. Nathan waved his hand joyfully.
It was very hard when you passed away, Dad, but because you're not here, I felt I had to protect Mom. That's why I tried making the app and strive to write better codes. It makes me want to study more. I really miss you, Dad, but I feel like I am who I am today because of you.
Nathan.
When I grow up, I'm going to help not just Mom, but many others who have lost someone like you, Dad.
Nathan declared in front of Daniel's grave. Nathan went on to attend prestigious middle and high schools, always maintaining top grades, and enrolled in the same medical school at Harvard University as Daniel. He passed both the preliminary legal examinations and the medical licensing exam while still in college. The media covered Nathan's dual successes, speculating whether he would pursue medicine or become a prosecutor. However, Nathan seemed determined to continue his company from the start. The company he founded in elementary school for game app development, which had been mostly dormant since middle school, was restarted after his college graduation. He also began actively employing single mothers in the company. I resigned from the law firm where I worked and joined Nathan's company as a legal officer. Applying the knowledge and experience I gained as a lawyer at my son's company has been a joy. Additionally, as many single mothers work there, overtime is basically prohibited. I can now go home on time every day and take care of household matters at my own pace. While I love legal work, I also need time to relax and face my own life. About a year after Nathan restarted the company, he told me that Smith, the receptionist at the bank from that time, came for a job interview. It had been over a decade, but they both recognized each other instantly. The rude bank clerk Miller was fired after that incident. Smith, who was also facing harassment from Miller, had already submitted her resignation. As a single mother herself, she had faced many challenges, but those days were over. Smith, adept at caring for others, became an indispensable executive secretary in Nathan's company. Nathan, Smith, her daughter, and I go out for dinner once a month. When he gets a little tipsy, Nathan always says, "Life is stranger than fiction, and it's the most interesting thing." Apparently, Nathan has even asked Smith's daughter out for dinner, just the two of them. She doesn't seem to mind. Life is unpredictable. Today, as I finish work and walk home in the sunset, I speak to Daniel in my heart. "Daniel, please keep watching over Nathan and me." I felt like the first star twinkled just then.
Don't you dare use our toilet. A failure of a daughter-in-law like you isn't part of the family, and yet, you have the audacity to walk into our house as if it's your right. Such a shameless woman. We provide shelter to an outsider like you, but we didn't hear a single word of thanks,
Thank you.
What was that? I can't hear you. More importantly, how long do you plan on sitting there? The thought of you, dirty as you are, touching anything in this house, disgusts me. Your filth could spread, even pollute the air. From now on, take a bath outside. That should be good enough for you.
But there's no public bath open at this time.
What are you talking about? There's a park right over there. It has toilets and faucets, doesn't it? With those words, my mother-in-law locked me out of the house. Let's go back a bit in time. After marrying Mike, and since we both worked, I moved into his parents' house to live with his folks. I used to visit Mike's family home occasionally even before we got married, and each time, my father-in-law would treat me kindly, as if I were his own daughter. Having lost my father when I was young, I thought of my father-in-law almost like my own father. However, just before our wedding, my father-in-law fell ill and had been hospitalized by the time we started living there. On the other hand, my mother-in-law, in stark contrast to my father-in-law, started treating me coldly. In front of Mike's dad, she would smile and act gently towards me, but as soon as he was gone, she would say things like, "Your cooking is too salty. Are you trying to make me sick? The air feels worse when you're around," almost like verbal abuse. My mother-in-law, a stay-at-home wife, always at home, made the times we were alone together the most difficult. I began working longer hours just to avoid going home. My mother-in-law's sarcastic comments only grew more frequent as I continued to work late every day. Before I knew it, she would nag at me every time she saw my face and sigh exaggeratedly. One day, after coming home from work, I was greeted by my mother-in-law's usual scowl, telling me, "Don't walk around the house with your dirty body. You'll make everything dirty." I was hungry and wanted to eat dinner first, but reluctantly headed to the bath. However, my mother-in-law, standing in front of the changing room, looked at me with a disgusted frown. "You're not thinking of using our bath, are you?"
But I thought I should clean off the dirt.
Clean yourself outside. The audacity of thinking you can use our bath. How brazen of you.
Outside, but at this time there are no public baths open nearby.
If you go far enough, you'll find a place that's open, won't you? Look it up yourself. I'm a germaphobe after all. The mere thought of an unsanitary person like you in the same house makes me sick.
What should I do then?
You staying in the house will just spread the dirt. After all, a daughter-in-law isn't really family, so manage your own baths and toilet outside.
How can I manage that?
Quiet. There are toilets in the park, and there's even a faucet for bathing, right? Stop dawdling and get out. With that, my mother-in-law pushed me out. Standing outside the closed door, I was dumbfounded. I was used to being scolded with harsh words daily, but this was a first. I thought surely I would be allowed to use the bath by the next day, so I spent the night at an internet cafe a few stations away. But this thought of mine was naive. Days passed, and I was still not allowed to use either the bath or the toilet. I resorted to bathing at public baths using my paycheck and relieving myself at a nearby park. Yet my mother-in-law's unreasonable demands didn't stop there. She eventually said, "Since I'm letting you live here, it's only right you give me your earnings. Rent. It's rent. Trying to live and eat for free. How utterly low can you be?" The money was meant to help support my mother living alone in the countryside, but overwhelmed by Lisa's insistence, I ended up handing over my salary. Mike saw how I was treated, but always put his mother first. Even on cold days when I had to go outside to use the restroom, he would turn a blind eye. Sometimes, he would even join his mother in mocking me. Over half a year of living with them, the treatment never improved. It only got worse. Why did I have to endure such treatment? I thought about this time and again. But Mike was on his mother's side, and his father was in the hospital. My own mother had suffered from stress-related illness in the past, and I didn't want to worry her. I had no one else to rely on. So I had no choice but to endure the unreasonable treatment every day. Life at home was tough, filled with constant nagging. Since all my earnings were handed over to my mother-in-law, and Mike certainly didn't give me any allowance, I couldn't even afford to spend time outside to escape. Moreover, since my mother-in-law didn't do any housework, I had to take care of all household chores, which meant even if I returned home late, I would still be scolded. I couldn't afford new clothes or even a visit to the hair salon, so my days were spent feeling increasingly worn out, both physically and emotionally. Occasionally, I looked forward to visiting the public bath with the little money I had left after work, but between Lisa's complaints about me slacking off on housework and financial issues, I couldn't afford to go every day, and my body started to develop itchiness and other signs of distress. One day, as I was heading to the park to use the restroom, as usual, I saw my father-in-law. I remembered that he was scheduled to have a day out from the hospital, as his health had improved. I had planned to pick him up later, but it seemed he had managed to come back on his own. With the same kind and unchanged smile, my father-in-law greeted me as if nothing had changed.
"Naomi, what are you doing here?"
Just going to the restroom.
The restroom, the restroom. Don't we have one at home? Is it broken?
No, it's not that.
Is something the matter?
Telling my kind father-in-law about how I've been treated at home would surely worry him. I didn't want to cause him any concern. However, unable to hold it any longer, I ended up telling him everything in a rush.
I've been told that I'm not part of the family, so I shouldn't use the toilet or the bath in the house.
What?
Because Lisa is a germaphobe. She can't stand the idea of someone else, like me, using the toilet or the bath.
And Mike hasn't said anything about this.
Mike gets along well with his mom, so he hasn't really done anything.
I see.
With a heavy sigh, my father-in-law apologized to me, saying, "Let's go home together. I'm sorry for everything that has happened." His words nearly made my tightly wound feelings unravel. Holding back tears that threatened to spill, I finished up in the restroom and returned home with him. Once home, my father-in-law gathered my mother-in-law and Mike in the living room. Initially pleased by her husband's return, my mother-in-law was puzzled by his unusual demeanor.
I've heard about what's been going on from Naomi.
What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. I heard you've been denying Naomi access to our home's toilet and bath because she's not family.
Well, that's...
And on top of that, you've been taking all of her salary, haven't you?
Why would you know that? My mother-in-law glared at me. However, my father-in-law stepped between us, shielding me from her gaze.
That's not right. You should be reflecting on how you've treated Naomi. Yes, she's an outsider, but she came to be part of our family by marrying Mike. Instead of welcoming her with gratitude, you've treated her terribly. We were all strangers before becoming a family. It's precisely because we're strangers that we need to be considerate to become a family. What have you been doing, and Mike?
Mike flinched when his name was called.
You're her husband. You're protecting the wrong person. It's not about always defending your mother. You need to protect your wife. That's a husband's duty.
But.
No buts. You're an adult, Mike. It's time to start acting like it. Mike, visibly intimidated by his father's calm yet stern demeanor, glanced at his mother.
It's not like we were intentionally neglecting Naomi, right, Mom?
In a moment of desperation, Mike looked to his mother for support, who quickly turned back to face her husband after a brief glance at Mike. "No, you've got it all wrong. Mike told me, if Naomi doesn't use the toilet or bath at home, we can save on the water bill. And since her salary belongs to us, we should take it all." I said I couldn't do such a cruel thing, but Mike insisted.
Hey, Mom, what are you talking about?
I didn't want to, but I only did it because Mike told me to.
Don't make stuff up. It was you who started it, saying you couldn't stand Naomi using the water facilities. And you were the one who first said we could live better if we had free reign over Naomi's salary.
Oh, to think you would start saying such things to your own mother. Mike and his mother began to blame each other. I couldn't keep up with what was happening in front of me and could only stare blankly, unable to say anything. They were both insisting they weren't at fault. The friendly rapport they used to share was nowhere to be seen, replaced by ugliness. Next to me, my father-in-law sighed deeply.
Enough. I've heard enough of both of your feelings. You're both arguing over who is not at fault without even offering a single apology to Naomi. You should be ashamed. Both of you, get out of the house right now. Cool off.
With that, my father-in-law quickly kicked them out of the house. After that, there were several exchanges with Mike and his mother, but far from showing any remorse, they only expressed resentment for being kicked out. directing their grievances at me and my father-in-law. Disgusted with both Mike and his mother, my father-in-law and I decided it was best to divorce and cut ties. When the divorce was settled, my father-in-law called me and apologized deeply.
The reason your mother-in-law became so selfish and acted as if she owned a place, and Mike living his life centered around his mother, is because I prioritized work over family. I had no right to lecture them about family when I wasn't a good husband or father myself. I wanted Mike to learn from my mistakes and build a good home with you, Naomi.
Charles.
How selfish of me, Naomi. I'm truly sorry. It's all my fault. It's a poor way to apologize, but I want to give you this house.
Charles, please lift your head. It's not your fault. And this house holds so many memories for you, right? I can't accept it.
But I want to make it up to you somehow. I've caused you so much trouble.
If you really want to make it up to me, could we sometimes have meals together?
Meals? Is that really enough for you?
Yes, they lost my father when I was young, so I've always thought of you as my real father. I want us to continue being close.
My father-in-law nodded at my words with a troubled yet happy expression. After that, I moved to an apartment and started living on my own. My father-in-law, who had been discharged from the hospital, seemed to have resumed life at home, and we often met up for enjoyable meals, catching up on each other's lives. In the course of our conversations, my father-in-law expressed a desire to meet my mother. It occurred to me that, apart from the wedding, my mother and my father-in-law had not met since. Although I divorced Mike, if I was going to maintain a relationship with my father-in-law, it seemed like a good idea for the three of us to have a meal together. About 3 months after the divorce, my mother, my father-in-law, and I went out to eat. Surprisingly, my mother and father-in-law got along well, and the meal went pleasantly. We hadn't been able to have a proper meet and greet before the wedding due to father-in-law's health and my mother's schedule, and we barely spoke beyond simple greetings at the wedding. Since they hadn't had much of a conversation before, it turned out that my mother and father-in-law, being close in age and sharing similar interests, hit it off quite well, and soon they were meeting up without me. The two of them quickly deepened their relationship, and now my father-in-law has truly become my father. I can still vividly remember how they came to me, a bit sheepishly, to discuss their plans to marry. I was so taken by surprise, touched, and so happy that I couldn't help but cry. My mother moved out from the countryside, and I gave up my apartment, so now the three of us live together happily in that house. As for Mike and his mother, according to what I've heard from my father-in-law, they're somehow managing to get by. Mike seems to be working hard to support his mother, but their relationship seems to deteriorate day by day due to her constant complaints and unreasonable demands. With me gone, it seems all of Mike's mother complaints have now turned towards him. Recently, overwhelmed by the stress of his job and the strain of living with his mother, Mike quit his job without discussing it with her. She seemed furious with him, but realizing that someone had to work to live, she reluctantly started working. But having been a stay-at-home wife and somewhat naive about the world, she struggles to find a suitable job and keeps quitting soon after being hired. From time to time, My father-in-law receives requests for financial assistance from Mike and his mother, but he has consistently refused them. He tells me and my mother they may be my family from the past, but the family I need to cherish now is this one right here. And he would look at us tenderly as he spoke. Besides, he continued,
If there's anything I can teach those two now, it's that they might understand the pain of others through their own hardships. Maybe if they learn to be kinder to people, someone willing to help them will come along.
He seemed a bit sad saying this. I, too, think about the future and the hardships it may bring, but I hope to never forget to be kind to others and cultivate a heart that considers others' feelings. I want to build a warm, gentle, and wonderful family like the one my mother and father-in-law have created.
I'm carrying Lucy's fiance's baby.
With only 3 months until my wedding, my sister, held by my fiance, makes a terrifying confession. I looked up to the sky, feeling I knew it. After all, my sister is a predator who always wants what others have and doesn't choose her means to get them. In my family, it's settled that my sister and my ex-fiance will marry, and it's unthinkable for me to object. My whole family is so crazy, I really feel like I'm going mad. My name is Lucy, I'm turning 30 this year, and I'm a sports instructor who loves jogging. I've loved sports since I was young, and I consider my current job, where I get to teach what I love, to be my true calling. I jog on the levee before work or on my days off, so regardless of the season, my skin is always tanned. I prioritize comfort over style, wearing my hair in a single tie and only wearing a shiny ring on my left finger. That ring was given to me last month by my fiancé, Rick, who proposed. Rick, who is the same age as me, was a high school classmate, and we became close after a chance reunion after becoming working adults. His parents run a somewhat well-known company locally, and Rick is their successor. People envy me for marrying him, but to me it's just pressure. However, when I first met his parents during our marriage introduction, they were very gentle and genuinely happy about me joining their family. I was relieved to become relatives with such good people. Now it's time for Rick to come greet my family.
Lucy, your fiancé will be coming over, and Mary will also be there.
Really? The day before the meeting, as I was helping clean the room, my mom casually dropped a bombshell. Wasn't Mary supposed to be at work?
Mary took the day off because she wanted to meet your fiancé. She really loves you, you know.
I see. I managed a strained smile at my mom's carefree words. Mary is my sister, 3 years younger than me, and the person I struggle with the most in this world. Unlike me, Mary is fashionable and charmingly cute. But the problem is her personality. Mary has always wanted what others have. Being closest to her, I was an easy target. Since she was about 3, Mary has always coveted my belongings. Whenever I got new clothes or toys, she would cry, saying, "I want that too." My parents would tell me, "You're the older sister, so give it to her," and they would give my stuff to Mary. I would be left with hand-me-downs or whatever was available. Even the pencil case and desk I got when I started school ended up being taken by Mary, who had just started kindergarten. Luckily, she didn't get my backpack because there will be cuter ones in 3 years, but instead, my parents bought her a cute bag. It seems Mary enjoys the process of getting things. Once she has them, she quickly loses interest. My parents looked troubled, saying, "We bought it for her after all," but they never scold Mary. Turning my back on the study desk that nobody uses, I did my homework at the dining table. Mary's predatory habit was evident even in kindergarten and school. Every time there was trouble, our parents always sided with Mary. Eventually, Mary began to steal boyfriends. By the time she entered middle school, she was famously known among the girls as the predator. There were girls who confronted Mary, but most of the boys sided with her, and it seems many just cried themselves to sleep. Even as her sister, I can see that Mary is a kind of genius. With strategies to create villains and the skill to cry at the right moment, Mary has used tears to manipulate our parents and boys to get everything she wants in life. I went to a college far enough from home that I couldn't commute. It was all to get away from my devil-like sister. And then I got a job at a nationwide sports gym in the same state as the college. Rick, who was a high school classmate, joined the gym, and we felt it was fate to meet like this in such a place. Rick worked for a different company from his parents, and I heard that when he turned 30, he would return to his hometown and take over the family business. Honestly, I didn't want to go back to my hometown where Mary was, and becoming a CEO's wife felt daunting. So, when Rick proposed, I hesitated a lot, but in the end, I decided to be with him. If I'm 30, Mary would be 27. She should be a grown adult by then, and surely she wouldn't engage in such childish behavior as wanting others' things anymore. Believing that, I decided to move back to my hometown when we got married. Still, I couldn't shake off the unease of having Mary and Rick meet face to face. And on the day of the meeting,
Lucy?
Mary, with her long, beautiful hair and a white dress splittering, came running to hug me. I hadn't seen her much since graduating from high school, and I was taken aback by her unchanged girl-like cuteness and sweet scent.
You should have introduced me to your boyfriend sooner, Lucy.
Sorry.
Nice to meet you. I'm Mary, her sister.
I'm Rick. Nice to meet you, too.
I'm so happy to have a big brother for the first time, Rick.
As Mary smiled softly, I could hear Rick swallow hard. It was foolish of me to let them meet. Mary hasn't changed at all from back then. I only had a bad feeling. And bad feelings tend to come true quickly.
Sorry, Lucy. I'm carrying Rick's baby.
A year after the proposal and 3 months before the wedding, Mary made a horrifying confession. Of course, I was shocked but not surprised. It makes sense. Why wouldn't Mary want a guy who is somewhat good-looking and the heir to a well-known local company? It was all my mistake. As I was overwhelmed with despair, Mary's big eyes welled up with tears.
I'm sorry, Lucy. Rick is your fiance, but I just couldn't stop my feelings for him.
What?
It's not Mary's fault. The real sinner here is me for falling in love with you.
Rick. I couldn't say anything back to them as they gazed at each other entranced. I was surprisingly calm despite not showing any shock or disturbance, which seemed odd to Rick.
What's the matter? Are you too shocked to speak?
Well, something like that. But my shock was more about being reminded of my shallowness in trusting Mary than losing Rick. Rick frowned, obviously not amused by my attitude.
You're really not cute, even at a time like this. Normally, people would cling and beg not to be left.
Well, maybe.
That's why I didn't want to marry you. I proposed because I felt obligated as a man after being together until we were 30.
Seriously? Yeah, right. Who was the one who proposed tearfully at that beautiful park at night? Who was desperately convincing me when I was reluctant to move back to our hometown?
Rick just cares too much about his responsibilities. He should value his own feelings more.
Mary touched his arm gently. Rick also looked pleased as he took Mary's hand.
See, Mary comforts me like this, compared to you.
What are you talking about? Sure, I don't have the cuteness like Mary, but I never neglected Rick. And weren't you the one who said our straightforward relationship was comforting? This whole mess is Mary's fault. While whispering sweet words, she must have twisted our memories into something awful. It's terrifying how manipulative my sister can be.
Mary had a hard time being followed by a stalker.
Yeah, if it weren't for Rick,
Yeah, the usual Mary playing the victim after unilaterally dumping her ex-story. Even after more than 10 years, Mary's tactics haven't changed. This is hopeless. I don't have the heart or the capacity to win him back after this. As if to flaunt it in my pale face, they left the room, and they seemed to have gone to inform our parents right away. When my parents heard of Mary's pregnancy, they were panicked, but they quickly agreed to break off my engagement and approve of their marriage. In the end, my parents favored Mary over me.
It's your fault for not satisfying him, Lucy. It's sad for Mary and the baby, so you should give him up.
My heart turned cold at the words of my parents, who had no words of comfort and that I was at fault. Mary, smiling triumphantly behind them, finally made me snap. What about the wedding? The invitations have already been sent out, and there will be cancellation fees.
It's okay. I'll step in as the bride instead of you.
What? What is she talking about?
There's no better venue around than the one Lucy chose, and since I'm 3 months pregnant, it seems just right. We need to save money for our baby.
What is she really saying?
Mary, what a good girl you are.
What is this man saying?
Mary's smart. No need to resend invitations. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Oh, and make sure Lucy inform your friends and workplace about the cancellation. We're inviting Mary's friends instead.
This mother is also a problem. There are only unreasonable people here. In their minds, it's all set for Mary and Rick to marry, and my wishes are nowhere to be found. I truly feel like I'm losing my mind with everyone being so irrational.
Lucy, I'm sorry for finding happiness before you.
Seeing my sister tearfully tilt her head like that even makes me feel nauseous. It's painful and humiliating, but I have no allies, and there's already a life growing inside Mary. I had no choice but to accept their marriage. Yet, I won't wish them happiness. Just because they're family doesn't mean I'll forgive them. You all discarded me first. After that, I did as my mom said and informed my friends and workplace about the broken engagement. Everyone was surprised and worried when they heard it was a shotgun wedding between my sister and my fiance. And they were speechless to learn the wedding would go ahead with the bride switched. My boss immediately canceled my transfer back home and promised me a position near the store where I had worked for a long time. My friends were furious as if it were their own issue and suggested, "Let's go on a trip when you feel better." Though I was unlucky with my family and boyfriend, I was truly fortunate to be surrounded by supportive people. I personally informed all the main contacts about the broken engagement and finished what I had to do. And then, on the wedding day, of course, I wasn't allowed to attend, nor did I want to. I had loaded my luggage into my friend's truck, which had already been brought into the apartment where Rick and I were going to live. Apparently, Mary and Rick will be living in this room from tomorrow. Although I managed to move back to the state I previously lived in, I had already canceled my old apartment lease, so finding a new place was a hassle. Just when I was relieved that I could move out today, my phone rang. As soon as I answered, I could hear my mom shouting,
"Lucy, get to the wedding venue right now."
"What? But I'm not supposed to attend."
"Just come."
Unable to argue with my mom's insistence, I reluctantly agreed. I had half expected to be summoned anyway. Glancing at the clock, it was just before 3 p.m., probably the break between the ceremony and the reception. Just in case, I dressed in the formal dress I had prepared and headed to the venue in my friend's truck. Guided by the staff, I entered the reception hall and saw that the number of attendees didn't even fill half of the 80-person capacity venue. On the bride's side, there were mostly relatives. On the groom's side, just Rick's parents and his friends. There was one woman sitting alone at the bride's table, wearing a pure white dress that suggested she was the bride, chugging red wine. Naturally, Rick looked pale at the high table, and Mary was visibly in a bad mood. Seeing me, my mom strode over with large steps.
"Lucy, explain to everyone, will you?"
"What am I supposed to explain?"
"Tell them this marriage is harmonious. Our relatives are suspicious, and his relatives aren't even attending."
There's really no other way to put it. I don't know how they explained the bride changing from older sister to younger sister, but anyone with common sense would be suspicious since the groom's name remained the same.
"This will ruin Mary's big day. Please, do something about it."
Pushed by my panicking mom, I was dragged next to the high table. A confused staff member handed me a microphone, and I reluctantly began to speak. "Rick, Mary, congratulations on your wedding. As the bride's sister, I wish you both happiness."
Lucy.
Rick's eyes moistened, and Mary smiled contentedly. "What do these people think I am? Do you think I will congratulate my sister for stealing my fiance?"
Hey.
Ignoring the stunned bride and groom, I turned to face the attendees. The bride and groom have verbally abused me, and our parents told me I lacked the charms of a woman and unilaterally had my engagement broken off. I was told not to come to the wedding, but as soon as they realized it was not convenient for them, I was called out. My mom says to tell everyone this marriage is harmonious, but how could it be when my sister stole my fiance right from under me?
"Lucy, stop it."
My mom glared at me with a furious red face. Rick was sweating bullets, and Mary was staring straight ahead with a serious face. Then, from a round table, a smattering of applause broke out. It was a woman in a white dress, attending alone as a friend of the bride. She stood up, clicking her high heels as she moved to stand next to me, the strong smell of alcohol making me wince.
Lucy, can I make a speech too?
Go ahead. Having no real reason to object, I handed her the microphone and she smiled broadly before beginning.
I'm Lisa, a friend of Mary. Sorry for being so drunk. Congratulations on your marriage, Mary. By the way, your husband is, Mike, was it?
What?
Rick looked confused, called by a name he didn't recognize.
Oh, wrong, sorry. Mike was my ex-boyfriend from college. Mary took him from me.
Really?
So is it Steve, Nate, David, Ray, Leo, Jake?
What do you mean?
As more men's names were thrown out, not only Rick but the entire venue began to murmur. Lisa, unfazed, turned towards Mary.
Remember, all the men you stole from others, right? There were others, but honestly, I've forgotten since there were like 30 men.
The venue buzzed even louder. I was shocked at the number, but it made sense if it was Mary. Mary glared at Lisa for a moment, but soon put on her trademark tearful face.
It's so mean, Lucy and Lisa. I'm not that terrible of a girl, right, Rick?
That's right. I chose Mary over Lucy because Lucy was terrible to me.
So you admit in front of everyone that you dumped me for my sister?
Oh, no.
Rick looks panicked. Mary froze for a second, but being the manipulator she is, she quickly recovered and tried to frame me and Lisa as the villains.
It's true Rick was engaged to Lucy, but Lucy was so cold to him. I was just comforting him.
Lisa snorted derisively at Mary's tearful eyes.
Sure, always the same tactic. Painting ex-boyfriends and their girlfriends as the bad ones to snag the guy you want.
I didn't do anything that bad.
Then why am I the only friend of the bride here?
Well, that's because.
And is that child you got pregnant really Rick's?
What?
You were dating John until 5 months ago, weren't you?
Did I?
Rick looked shocked as he turned to Mary. Then Lisa, who seemed too sober for someone drunk, walked out of the venue and returned with a young man.
Mary.
No way.
Mary's complexion changed for the first time when the young man, who looked sad, called her name.
Are you the stalker who imagined you were dating Mary?
Rick stood up, eyes wide with anger, but Lisa scoffed.
No, that's not the story here. This man was Mary's boyfriend and my friend's ex-boyfriend. Just like you, he was another man stolen by Mary from another woman.
What?
Rick let out another surprised exclamation.
So, is the father of the baby in your belly the groom? What do you think, Lucy?
Lisa asked me cheerfully. I pondered for a moment and then answered with feigned difficulty. I'm not sure. Maybe there are other potential dads.
True, that's possible.
Lisa burst into laughter, finding my answer amusing. The venue, unable to follow the unfolding story, along with the parents, were stunned. I apologized to the attendees who got involved. I apologize for displaying such an ugly dispute in front of all the guests who attended today amidst their busy schedules. I will take my leave now.
Hey, Lucy.
Goodbye, Rick. I'll be sending you the bill for damages later.
What?
You can't escape this. I've already arranged it with your parents.
What the heck?
Rick looked back in shock. Since the wedding reception began, he had forgotten that his parents had been glaring at him all along. Yes, I had made a point of visiting Rick's in-laws after the engagement was broken off. Despite the embarrassing circumstances, when I explained the situation honestly, they were quite outraged. Actually, I had become close with Rick's mom during our engagement, going shopping together and discussing wedding favors and dresses. Rick seemed to have completely forgotten all of that, conveniently thinking, my parents won't mind if I break off the engagement with a fiance I haven't seen much of to switch to her sister, Mary. Of course, his parents are not that unreasonable or unfeeling. Disappointed by their son's actions, they didn't oppose the marriage due to the child involved, but had already ensured that relatives and business associates would not attend. Well, considering their son made a spectacle of himself at the wedding, they must be truly relieved they didn't invite their relatives. The wedding, already thrown into chaos by the bride's real sister and a friend exposing her misdeeds, and the appearance of an ex-boyfriend possibly being the father of her unborn child, was in a complete mess. Staff and organizers, confused, were huddled in a corner discussing. I didn't want to cause any more trouble for the venue, so I quickly made my exit. Lisa followed me out. We silently high-fived and then went our separate ways. I got into my friend's truck waiting in the parking lot, loaded all my belongings, and drove straight to my new apartment. I turned off my continuously buzzing smartphone. I left my hometown feeling refreshed. Afterwards, the wedding became so chaotic that it had to be canceled. It seems Rick and Mary's ex-boyfriend John pressed her about who the father of her child was, but Mary stubbornly insisted it was Rick's. Learning of his darling daughter's scandalous life, my dad's blood pressure skyrocketed, landing him in the hospital. Despite the shock, my mom remained steadfastly on Mary's side, and when I came with a lawyer to demand alimony from me, she glared at me as if I were the devil. Unperturbed by their dire situation, I firmly collected the alimony I was entitled to. I spent the alimony on a trip with my friends who supported me through everything and saved the rest. Now I live peacefully in a place where my sister and parents can't bother me. To me, it's happily ever after, but it seems not for them. A year after my sister's wedding, as I was leaving work, Rick suddenly confronted me. He had found out where I worked because my name and photo were on the company's instructor introduction page.
We were deceived.
As soon as he saw me, Rick shouted,
The child that she bore isn't mine. She's a witch who tore us apart.
I had heard from my mom's one-sided phone calls that apparently the father of Mary's child was indeed John. That stuff. At my words, Rick's eyes filled with tears.
Lucy, you're the only one who ever truly loved me. I'm going to leave that devil. Let's start over here, just the two of us. Together, we can overcome any difficulty.
Rick gently took my hand. I forcefully pushed it away. Are you out of your mind?
What?
There's no way I would start over with you.
Why? I was just deceived by her.
Don't play the victim. Even if you were deceived by Mary, it doesn't erase the fact that you hurt me.
But
besides, it sounds like your troubles are just yours. I heard your brother took over as the heir.
Say no more.
Indeed, this man had been labeled as a hopeless by his parents during the marriage debacle and had been stripped of his heir status. A man who can't be faithful to his wife can hardly run a company faithfully, his parents had wisely decided. He had left his job in anticipation of taking over the family business and was now unemployed, rejected by his old workplace and desperately job hunting. I'm not struggling like you. There's no benefit to me in getting back with you, and I have absolutely no sentiment for you.
Benefit, huh? It's because you're such a calculating woman that you got dumped.
Yeah, and clinging to the woman who dumped you isn't calculating?
Shut up.
Unable to retort against the solid logic, Rick grunted with a red face. Then my colleagues gathered to find us arguing.
Is he the guy? The one who was duped by Playgirl's sister and ended up unemployed, right?
That's right.
What do you want with Lucy now? Don't you have any pride?
If you do anything to Lucy, these muscles won't stay silent.
Surrounded by muscular and towering men, Rick let out a whimper and ran away. He appeared at my workplace a few times after that, but gave up due to my colleagues' ironclad defense. 3 years later, I had thought I was done with relationships, but then I met a man with whom I incredibly clicked. He also loved jogging, and we met while running in the park early in the morning. After we started dating and I found out he was running a company, I hesitated because of the trauma I had experienced with Rick. Then, just when things were settling, after her divorce from Rick was finally settled, Mary appeared before me. Of course, I no longer regarded her as a sister. There was no way I was going to let this home wreck her anywhere near my precious partner. Yet somehow, she found out where we were shopping and having tea and showed up.
Lucy, long time no see.
In her typical manner, and as if it were the most natural thing in the world, she showed great interest in my boyfriend and aggressively flirted. I wonder if I'll ever be free from this monster. But this time was different. He brushed off Mary's touchy-feely hands, and he said,
You're disgusting. Do you really just want any man you see? I've never seen anything like you, but how could you ever think such vulgar behavior would attract a man? I feel sick just watching.
Seeing him stand so firmly, I felt reassured and decided to marry him. After her divorce, Mary did not end up marrying John, the actual father of her child. It seems John finally woke up from Mary's manipulation during the wedding fiasco and realized she was bad news. After being harshly rejected by my boyfriend, which wounded her female pride, Mary threw herself at various men and even got involved with several married men. However, her affairs were quickly discovered by their wives, and she has been heavily sued for alimony by each. Naturally, my mom came crying to me for help, but there was no way I was going to cover for her. Mary has had to work nonstop to pay off her debts, and it seems her once prized skin and hair have deteriorated badly. Now looking over 10 years older, it's unlikely any man will be deceived by Mary again. As for Mary's child, thankfully, he is being raised without any trouble by John's parents. I'm really glad that her child didn't end up in a bad situation. Then, a few more years later, I continued to work at the sports gym while raising my children. We could live comfortably on my husband's earnings alone, but I love my job. While I do help out as a CEO's wife, it's not too much of a burden. On weekend mornings, I have the luxury of jogging with my husband and our children.
You always look so young. How do you stay so beautiful?
An older gym member once asked enviously. Maybe it's because I get to do a job I love with the support of my family. Despite saying it myself, I felt a bit embarrassed and couldn't help but laugh. Life has been challenging, often not going as planned, especially since I wasn't blessed with supportive parents or a sister. But meeting a husband who accepts me entirely has made all the difference. All's well that ends well. Today, I'm enjoying another day filled with sports, sipping on a protein shake made by my husband.